Hey everyone, we're back. I was gonna say we're back with another week of Find Your Film, but it's not Wednesday. We're not recording. Eric Holmes is not here. We do miss him. I'm here with my better Bruce Purkey. He's called Prey Key, and let's get to the point. We are going to talk. I was gonna say we were gonna talk about just Prey spoilers, but Bruce, you wanted to do a mini review along with the spoilers. Do you think that's a better, well-rounded way of just talking about Prey in your estimation?
I think so. Just because if people didn't go back and find it within the one episode where you just briefly talked about it, this could be a one-stop shop for people. So if they're just looking for Prey, hey, what do you guys think of Prey? And then I also want to see some spoilers on Prey, they've got it all right here. But if you want even more, you go to Find Your Film, and then you hear us really talk about other stuff too.
Other stuff too, yes. We cover a lot of stuff on Find Your Film, findyourfilms.com. We were talking about Eric Holmes. I'm going to actually plug this. This is a hodgepodge. So we're right now for this video, for this audio, we're talking about Prey. But also for you audio listeners for our podcast, I will also add to this. We call it the Find Your Film hodgepod, and we're going to actually, me and Eric, we talked to writer Jeremiah Kipp for this movie called Slapface. The reason why I'm not making eye contact with you, Bruce Purkey, is because I did today get my DVD of Slapface. Which, by the way, is also, if you want to save your money and you don't have money to buy a DVD or maybe rent it on Amazon Prime or any of the digital outlets, hopefully you have Shudder. Shudder being what, Bruce, your favorite streaming service?
Yeah, and I'd say it's definitely the best value for streaming services. If you like interesting and experimental and horror, then it's a great place.
It is a great place. I was going to joke, it's not a great place. No more jokes. You know what? The big jokes is we had technical issues, a lot of it being mine before we started recording. But let me just say one thing about Slapface. We both really enjoyed it. Special features for this DVD include a Slapface behind the scenes featurette, cast and director Q&A video, and a behind the scenes photo gallery. Worth watching regarding this movie, regarding Slapface, Bruce?
Yeah, I would say so, for sure.
Okay, cool. Now, let's get to Prey. Let's do a mini review, and here's the thing. The origin story of the Predator in the world of the Comanche Nation 300 years ago, and the headliner is Amber Midthunder. She plays Naru. She is a skilled female warrior. She is skilled because we, as the viewers, know how good she is. She's with the dog. She has this kind of really shorthand on how to hunt animals and whatnot. She's very, very good, but the problem is members of her tribes, her colleagues, even her brother, they give her pretty much the short end of the stick. They realize she's a great tracker, but they don't know if she's really a great female, fierce warrior. But the problem is there is a highly evolved predator that enters their land, thus putting their entire unit, their entire family unit, their entire community in danger. By the time when we actually recorded this over last week, Bruce, you had not seen Prey. Let's hear your overall thoughts on this movie. Did it live up to your expectations?
I would say it surpassed my expectations because my expectations were relatively low. I mean, hey, look, we're dropping a new Predator movie straight onto a streaming service. They've made now, I think, 5 other standalone Predator movies. I might be wrong, maybe 4. I think it's 5 though. And of course, they've done a couple Alien versus Predator movies. And this is the point in a franchise where you're kind of getting that relatively diminishing returns. You know, the best you can hope for is maybe a kind of a reboot kind of a thing and having it be okay. And I saw the pictures of her. I even had commented on it. I thought she looked like she was a, influencer or something when I first saw the photos of our lead in this. And I was won over entirely by this movie. I think it does quite a few things really great. We're going to talk a little bit in spoilers about some of those details. But I would say in general, if you like the concept of Predator in general, like here you got this hunting alien coming to Earth looking for a good foe that is going to give them a challenge. And then you have this idea of going back in the past to, what is this, late 1700s, Comanche warriors, maybe some Western people in there too. We'll talk about that in spoilers.
Yes.
And the idea that basically it's there, and what do you do with it? And how do you battle this? And how do you try to survive against such a fearsome warrior of an alien race? And that's kind of the basis of the original Predator. And they don't stray away from that formula, which is very smart because a lot of the other movies do. And that's what kind of makes them not so good. So I would say, I even posted, hot take, this might be, okay, I'm just whispering this in the corner, this might be the best Predator movie. But I'm not saying Arnold isn't great. Arnold is great. And the cheese factor in the 80s and the brotastic nature of the original Predator really can't be beat. So I would say maybe for different flavors of Predator movies, this is great in the one category and that's great in the other category. And I think those might be my two favorite Predator movies.
You were talking about the brotastic element of a lot of the franchise. Do you think the brotastic bros, or just the people who are slavish to that franchise, understandably so, do you think there might be a little bit of a pushback, even though it's getting great ratings, great audience ratings? Do you think they might say, oh, it's not the formula that we've come to expect?
Well, I think they're going to go in with a very skeptical eye, because I think this is going to look... So there's this whole corner of the movie watching internet, right? That is all about like, woke movies and, now the guys aren't the heroes anymore. It's all the women and blah, blah, blah. There's that whole aspect, right? And I think they're going to come into this with that baggage. I think that if they go in with at least a slightly open mind, they will be won over because the movie is just too technically good. It's just good. And I think of it more like Aliens. I mean, this is like Ripley. There's a female protagonist that does an awesome job. Well, I think that, this character of Naru is kind of getting right up there.
Can we put to bed, Bruce, Amber Midthunder, a little bit better than or more evolved than an influencer? Or no disrespect to influencers.
I was definitely wrong.
No disrespect to influencers. Okay, so you think she's a capable lead? Are you excited? Because after watching this, I was saying, okay, I just can't wait to see. I'm going to look up her IMDb right now. I'm going to watch some of her past films. I'm buying... Really, I'm buying at whatever price I can just to watch any kind of Amber Midthunder movies with her as a lead or even her as part of the ensemble. I remember someone told me that she was great. I believe it was our buddy William Lindis said she was great as one of the cast members of that FX series Legion. I remember her a little bit. I've only seen several episodes. I need to go back and watch it now. But are you really buying high on Amber Midthunder as far as movies go and as a lead?
I am because she does that kind of combo that you have to do in this movie, which is she has to be not a total expert. She has to start out as kind of not a total expert and kind of do the role of, that girl that's misunderstood but plucky, and she wants to be, recognized for being more than just that, and which is kind of a basic idea, right? But she sells that. And then when she has to be clever and figuring things out and tough and a good fighter, and you have to believe that she could actually possibly beat the Predator. That's a pretty big thing, right? And I think she pulls all that off.
Okay. Wow. So my rating, I think I initially rated it 4 stars, but as the week has gone on, this is almost a 5-star film for me. This is a 4.5-star rating for me. Bruce, wanted to hear your rating on Prey.
I think I'm 4.5 as well. And once again, this could grow. I think this is one of those, I'm probably going to rewatch it today with my kid because he hasn't seen it yet. So I may be rewatching it today. So I could see this going up, but I think 4.5 easily. I think it's 4.5 because
4.5 is a good starter, right? That's a good starter rating. Yeah.
Yeah, because this is just, it's what you want from a Predator movie. And I think it gives you more.
Okay.
So what can you ask for? That's it.
We reached out to our Find Your Film Cinematics universe, some of our members, and a couple of our members actually responded regarding their own impression of Prey.
Should we warn? Are we going into spoilers at this point?
Oh, you know what? We should probably go yes. You know what? Before, we would love to hear comment on the YouTube video or on our podcast or whatever. Just we would love to hear your rating on Prey. Did this movie live up to your expectations? But I guess maybe final thoughts before we get into spoilers, Bruce, regarding Prey. Any final thoughts?
I would just say it's a no-brainer. If you have the streaming service, it's there. I would just point out really quickly that there is a Comanche dub. If it bothers you that they speak mostly English and then they kind of drop into Comanche a little bit, and you want to hear only Comanche, even though it won't match up to the lips exactly, you can get that version and get even a little more, quote, authenticity. It's a fun movie, so right, whatever. I'd say final thoughts are, it's a no-brainer. If you are interested even a little bit in a Predator movie, why would you not watch this?
Prey is streaming on Hulu along with other Predator installments. Bruce, is this a Hulu film or this is a movie that could have played in theaters? It's in theaters. Would you have rather have seen this? So this is not just a streaming service type of movie, in your opinion.
I'm sad I didn't see this in the theater. Other than a couple little CGI bits, which, that's the nature of the business right now, right? CGI. Sometimes you're going to get a piece of CGI. It's like, okay, it's not the most spectacular. But other than that, this is a big screen movie. You should be seen on the big screen.
Yes. My only regret is this is actually this is sort of cool. I was able to get a screening link okay, from the wonderful folks over at Hulu. So I got the screener link for it, and I apologize you didn't get it, Bruce. We're trying to get you right
It's fine.
in the midnight. Yeah, but the thing is, look, I did not see the Comanche dub for the purposes of the spoiler episode. I was able to, I just went on Hulu and I actually checked out the last 35 minutes via the Comanche dub. And it's just a different experience, man. It's a totally different experience. I know some people consider subtitles reading, okay, like reading a movie, which I don't know. What percentage of people do you think are really annoyed by subtitles? You think, as far as Movie Nation, Cinephile Nation, do you think there's a lot of more people than we think who just really do not want to read a movie?
Yeah, I think there
Oh
is,
no!
unfortunately.
Oh no! Oh no! But I just feel, to me, I would look. I would say if you really do not like subtitles, go watch the non-Comanche dub first, just to enjoy it. But this has high rewatchability factor. I've only seen I saw the final 30 minutes of this film via the Comanche dub, and I think it was just a way better experience. I guess it's the whole adage of seeing people speak a language that feels organic to the story, that is of their blood and bone. And I think that's just a way to go, in my opinion. Okay, so all right, that is it. We're gonna get into spoiler territory now regarding Prey in 3, 2, 1. Okay, before we get into spoiler, I kind of faked out our buddies William Lindis. William Lindis from what podcast, Bruce Purkey?
Movie Bears podcast.
William Lindis is a close friend of ours. We love him. I really love his movie insights. He's joined us with conversations, you, Bruce, and Eric, with conversations with the Long Walk filmmaker Matty Doe. And, he was recently on a spoilerific podcast episode with you and Andrew Martin, Eric Holmes. What was the movie that you guys spoiled and talked about recently?
We did Nope.
So yeah, you guys can check that out on our podcast feed, Find Your Film podcast feed, as well as this YouTube channel. But anyways, here's what William Lindis from the Movie Bears podcast had to say. Quote, Prey really is the goods. It evokes the violence, the cunning, and the action beats of the original in a way that the other sequels really haven't. Wow, he echoes your sentiments, Bruce. That is a tall order. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Plus, between this, Blood Quantum, Reservation Dogs, and more, we're experiencing a renaissance of indigenous representation in media, something I will always champion. The final scene of, this is spoiler territory, right? The final scene of Amber Midthunder carrying the Predator's head while decked out in day-glow green blood was pitch perfect. Bruce Purkey, what do you think? Yes, day-glow green blood. I couldn't have described it better. What did you think of the final moment with her just carrying that Predator head?
I mean, it was what you needed in the movie, right? I mean, you knew it was going to happen. It wasn't like it was surprising you. And that's the thing I want to kind of mention about this movie, and I would like to hear what you think. It doesn't surprise you a great amount. Like, you see her brother, who's like the warrior that everyone's like, he's the guy, right? He's going to be the cool guy. And she kind of helps, but doesn't really help. She kind of fails. And then he comes back with the cougar, head. And you're like, okay, well, if she doesn't come back with the Predator head at the end of this movie, then I'm disappointed. So you knew that was probably going to happen, but it doesn't make it less satisfying to me. It made it just great.
And what's cool is her brother eventually confesses to her that, well, if he didn't follow her tracking tactics or the way her hunting ways, he wouldn't have been successful, right? So actually, Naru was the one who actually had all the smarts, really, as far as becoming, like, I guess, the real human predator in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I also love the fact that did you like the fact that Naru is considered, she is really doubted among her colleagues, and especially, most importantly, the Predator? Because the Predator has a way, like a warrior's code, that they're not going to harm like just people who aren't dangerous to them. They're not going to harm weak creatures. What did you think of that whole ethos or that whole kind of philosophy? Did you like the fact that it was infused in this installment?
I did. And I think that, so I'm not a Predator expert. I know that people have read like all the comics and the various versions and probably novelizations. They know like all the mythos behind it. I don't. But I think the basic concept that he or it or whatever it is, I don't know, that it doesn't want to attack something that's not a challenge. At least something that poses some sort of a threat, either an animal with claws or teeth or something pointing a weapon at it or a knife or whatever it is. It seems to have that happen. So there is that one key moment where I think, if I remember correctly, she had ran from it after it basically decimated half of the members of her party. And she's running across and she ends up getting into a bear trap or wolf trap, whatever it was. And that she's not armed and she's there and she's helpless, and it comes to go and it's like, oh, it's not going to go after her because of that. But she uses that to her advantage. So.
Yes. Here's what Ryan Smith had to say, our member of our Cinematics Facebook group. He said, it's a 4.5 for me. I loved it. The lead was fantastic and was totally believable as a badass. Think they did a little disservice, however, by continually having everyone doubt her abilities. That's interesting. I wish she was able to have a little bit more respect from everyone before all hell broke loose. I appreciated the decision not to have subtitles on the French trapper scenes. Did you appreciate that as well, Bruce, regarding the French trap? You mentioned that extra element in our mini review. What did you think of the French trapper sequence? Did that just kick the whole adventure level up a notch when that other element was added?
It did. At first, I was a little hesitant when that happened. I was like, okay, now where are we going to go with this? But essentially, it just brought a whole bunch more bodies for him to destroy.
Yes, of course,
so that was fine. Plus, it brought in that, they kind of introduced early on that, she and the Predator finds the decimation of the buffalo, which of course is historically, a thing. And the fact that both of them looked at that almost confused. Like the Predator and she looked at that like, why would you do this? This makes no sense. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty great. And once again, I think in the Comanche version, which I also have not watched, and I might be watching it tonight with my kid if he decides he wants to see that version. Yeah. The fact that you will subtitle the indigenous people, but not subtitle the Western people that you can't understand. I think that's a very cool thing to do. Put you in the position of, who are the people we're really identifying with? Who are the people we want to understand? You know what I mean? Like there's a thing there. And that's the kind of thing this movie has, I think, all the way throughout. It has little things in there you don't have to have. And that's where I think I would slightly disagree about her character. I like the fact that, I don't know Comanche culture. I'm guessing it wasn't the most non-sexist culture in the world. You know what I'm saying? Sure. I'm guessing that women weren't, consistently like just, hey, come on, you're probably a warrior too. I think that probably was a hard thing for them to get respect for. And I think that later on you have the moment where her brother recognizes her fully and they team up fully. And there's a point when it's like, oh, you are actually the one that should be going forth at this point. So I think that's the moment where that works, I think, and kind of lets her character fully bloom. And I liked the progression of her character. She was always competent, but she became fully badass by the end. And I think that's her arc, and I like that arc.
I think what's kind of cool, and I just realized this right now, when her brother is in the death throes, he gets stabbed, I guess, through the back and a little bit through the chest by the Predator, and he's telling her to leave right now. He's seeing, when he's looking at her, he doesn't look at her with fear in his eyes. I think there's a part of his brain is realizing, like you said, yeah, she can do this. He's telling her to run, not just to survive, but ultimately he believes that she can actually take the Predator on. And I think that's a really cool, subtle moment. Did you see that as well, as far as that, the way that was framed? I thought that was pretty cool. I think he has confidence.
I did. Yeah, I did. And I think that at that point, because before that, they decided to kind of team up too. So I think that having that whole progression where she's kind of split off with him, she rejoins with him in captivity, and then the two of them rejoin after they escape to become warriors together against the Predator. And I think that I really, really, really like that. The only other thing I would highlight really quick on her character, in any good action movie, you have to have a badass like arming and weapon creating moment, and she has several, but you really got to call out the hatchet. I don't know if tomahawk is officially a word or if that's something we don't use anymore. I'll call it a hatchet.
Yeah.
But a hatchet where you not only see her making the rope or the tether for it, and then how she like practices with it to basically make a new weapon, which I don't know if that ever existed, but it was damn cool to see it, and just that kind of a thing where you kind of make this improvised weapon and that's going to pay off eventually. And just little moments, right, where she sees some of the Predator weapon get used and she's like, oh, that's interesting. How can I use that piece of the Predator's weapon? That was really cool. So.
Right. Also, the fact that just near tragedy, that near death sequence in the quicksand, she realizes she can use the elements of nature in her favor regarding the final confrontation, where the Predator's right there in the quicksand and a little bit thrown off, and it gives her that extra time to actually, put him in the exact position to die. So I thought that was pretty cool too.
And I want to call out, because I mean, we haven't mentioned at all that this is Dan Trachtenberg's second feature after
Yeah.
10 Cloverfield Lane. Why is Dan Trachtenberg not making more movies? And I think after this, Dan Trachtenberg will be making more movies, because it's pretty obvious that this guy can make some great movies. I wanted to point out, us as a directing standpoint, there's some really great shots, and really great choreography that could be confusing in a lot of hands. You see these kind of action scenes and fighting scenes. I mean, we could pile on again, but pile on the Gray Man. But I just got to say, look at the fighting in this versus the fighting in Gray Man and how it's shot. And I would say that the hand-to-hand combat in this is more effective and more exciting. To me, to my eyeballs. And then I also want to mention, in a movie like this, to have epic moments is also really great. So you have a moment right at the beginning where she's standing on the edge of a cliff with her dog, which we haven't mentioned the dog. The dog is awesome.
Awesome, yeah.
She's standing on the edge of a cliff with the dog, beautiful, majestic, nature shot. And then you just see the fire coming out of the clouds. And then the title Prey drops down into the frame. I mean, come on, that's badass. That's great.
There's so many really good things about this movie. You know what's interesting though? This is going to be a standalone installment, but do you wish that they actually continued within this Comanche universe with her character, or this is just, so that's my first question. Do you think this is enough, or would you have liked to actually, is it impossible? Because the character of Naru is just very interesting to me.
I do and I don't. I think that I would love to see that, but the likelihood that it's going to turn out to be a great movie is pretty low. You know what I mean? It's like we love Ripley, right? But it was really amazing. We got two great Ripley movies, but we didn't get very many others. And I would rather imagine that there's this great rest of her life and adventure that she has, and just not see it and let this be its thing. And do I want now a Predator in medieval times and a Predator in Roman times? Not really, but I'll give him a chance. I think that sometimes lightning just hits at the right time, and this is it.
Well, we never thought that Naru would die at the end of this movie. But what about an alternate ending where she kills the Predator, but she dies in the process, and they bring her back home, and then she gets a warrior's welcome, but she has passed away. I mean, it would be poetic and lyrical and existential in a certain way, but do you think that defeats the purpose of Prey, or would that have been an alternately interesting kind of play on the story?
I think it would have been good, but watching her walk in with the head and throwing it down is too badass to not have happen. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and I told William Lindis that head sequence when she's walking in with the pain, the Dayglow blood and all that stuff, that they could have made it a lot more operatic and more bombastic and more just quick cutting. We're talking about drone shots. They could have made it really. Dan Trachtenberg could have made it like amazing with all these firecrackers and everything like that. But they just kept it really low key. Did you like that? The fact that it was just not.
I did, and like the one thing I think about, I would have even liked to see more gore and blood with some of the battles and stuff. But as I think of it, I also think like he might be doing it better than I would have wanted it. You know what I mean? Like, I think his choices might be better. I'll give it one little example. So there's an example when she is been added to the party of other guys, right? Not her brother, but the other guys that are kind of reluctantly following her, but not really trusting her. And in fact, they even tie her up, right?
Yeah.
Or they
do.
And
they do.
They don't. And then they all get attacked and killed by the Predator in various ways, and she's trying to, do all this stuff. And there's a shot in there where it is pulling the head and the spine out of the one guy in the foreground, while she is focused on kind of in the near background. And they don't really show all the gore and blood of that, but you know what's happening, and then you see the guy's head kind of being held up in the foreground, just kind of halfway off screen. And that subtlety, I think, in the long run is probably better than what I would want. You know what I mean? I think it's really good. I think it's really good filmmaking.
Okay, final question before we get out of here. With all the critical acclaim it's getting and the great word of mouth from audience members and cinephiles, where do you see the franchise going? Do you think it's going to revert back to same old, which to a lot of people would be great, because this could be just kind of a really cool offshoot? Or do you think this offshoot leads into new directions? Where do you hope, or where do you think it's going to go to?
I don't know. I'm afraid it's going to lead to a bunch of more terrible movies, unfortunately.
Oh, no. Really? Okay, well.
Yeah, I think this is the very, very rare example when they've made like 6 or 7 of them, and then all of a sudden you get another one that's really good. That doesn't happen very often. So, and I would hope, I mean, as much as I would like Trachtenberg to take another one and make it really another good one, I want him to do something else really well, really good. I think he can. He's already done two things that are really kind of crowd pleasing, but done them in kind of some unique and interesting and a little more artistic ways than you would expect. And I would love to see him like just off leash, fully off leash with a decent budget. Don't go crazy. Just give him like, 20 million. Give him 20 million and see what he does.
Speaking of giving people something, thank you to Ryan Smith and William Lindis for contributing to this spoiler episode. Bruce, I'm going to give you a shot here. I have a bunch of Blu-rays. I have the Rampage, which you can't see because of my background, but Rampage with Dwayne Johnson to Blu-ray, Suburbicon with Matt Damon.
Oh, no.
Mayhem, which, by the way, I believe you reviewed, and I don't know if you liked it, with Stephen Yeun and Samara Weaving. So that's Mayhem. I think you saw that a couple years back. There's Game Night. There's Crazy Rich Asians. I'm a crazy poor Asian. And then there's Hardcore Henry. So again, which two movies do you think stand out? Hardcore Henry, Game Night, Crazy Rich Asians, Mayhem, Suburbicon, or Rampage?
For my money, it would be Mayhem and Hardcore Henry.
Mayhem and Hardcore Henry. I'm going to figure out which one to give
that's
to
me.
Lindis. What? Oh, that's you. No, that's I'm going to give you Rampage just because.
Okay, well, I'm kind of furry and blonde. I could be one of them. I think there's a giant one in there.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to us on Find Your Film. Also, check us out next week because Bruce will give his reaction regarding the Comanche dub of Prey. That'd be really interesting, and would love to hear what your son thinks about it as well. As per usual, anything you want to say before we get out of here?
No, just check out, we have an episode coming up soon where we are going to do a little director's spotlight on Bobcat Goldthwait. And if you need to do a little prep work, why don't you just go look up his version of YMCA as Bono on YouTube, and just to get you in the mood.
Oh, very, very cool. We'll see if I'm going to add that to the show notes. Maybe not. All right, guys, we will see you next time. And tell us, most importantly, tell us what you think of Prey and all that stuff. All right, guys. See you, Bruce.
Bye. Hey, everybody. This is a very quick add-on to the spoiler discussion on Prey that Greg and I had. And this is coming from the future because after Greg and I recorded that spoiler discussion, I rewatched Prey with my son and had a quick little realization about an Easter egg in there, which you guys might all enjoy if you didn't notice it. That is, towards the end of Prey, you see Naru get the pistol, like a flintlock pistol. And when she brings back the head of the predator she killed, she leaves that, in the camp, and then she gives the pistol to apparently the head of their group, Comanche group. I don't know if the chief or what the exact title is, and he takes that flintlock pistol. They make a very big point of showing it very prominently. It's been a long time since I've watched Predator 2. I did a little research on the meaning of the pistol, and I discovered, if I were more of a Predator head, I would probably have noticed that is the pistol that Danny Glover is given by the head of the Predator group in the end of Predator 2. Once again, this is going to be a mild spoiler for you if you haven't seen Predator 2, so double beware. But once again, people who are into the lore will know a lot better than I do on this, but at the end of Predator 2, Danny Glover ends up inside of the Predator ship, has a fight to the death, and, after a lot of bloodletting from both sides, he prevails over the Predator, and then appears through, I don't know, a transporter kind of a thing. A bunch of predators come. One of them seems to be like the head predator or the chief, once again. And they all take away the body of the predator that Danny Glover killed. And as you know, that they don't necessarily just kill somebody. In that case, they kind of seem to respect him for his prowess in being a combatant with their predator. So it seems like as kind of a trophy to him, they give him that gun. And it is the gun that we see in the end of Prey. And then if you add that on to it's not a post-credit sequence, but if you watch the credits of Prey, there are little cartoon or animated versions of all the events of the movie you just watched as they're showing you the credits. And at the very end of that, before it goes to black and it's just the remaining credits, they have a quick little drawing of 3 Predator ships returning. And the indication, of course, is they're returning to pick up the predator they dropped off for a hunt. And you could assume like, oh, they're going to come and they're going to decimate that village. That wouldn't be in keeping with the style of the predators, and especially with the style you see at the end of Predator 2. So the assumption is probably that those predator ships return to that camp. They probably admire Naru for her prowess as a warrior, again, defeating their warrior. And I'm guessing that maybe they give some kind of a relic to the Comanches there. Maybe the Comanches in return give that gun to them. That's me kind of guesstimating. But if you didn't get that, I think that might be kind of a fun little thing for you guys to think about and probably to enjoy if you didn't catch that. If you did catch it and know a lot more about it than I do, which is very likely, let us know. Let us know what the more true version of those events might be. Anyway, I hope that adds a little bit to your spoiler discussion on Prey.